Hey, this is Dr. Brown. How's it going?
All right, all right. I'm just going to talk about it.
Okay, really? Hopefully something
We're
good.
going to WBOE.
All, all right. Thank you for that introduction. As always, I greatly appreciate it. Good afternoon, listeners. You locked into WVOE 1590 AM, the voice of Ebony, where your health is our heartbeat. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Brown, president and founder of Pressure MD Academy, welcoming you to another enriching session of Health Facts, the show where wisdom meets wellness and knowledge is always in season. All right, good peoples. We're here for another show. As always, trying to provide a little information to hopefully make your lives a little bit better, a little bit healthier, and and so that we can move around in this world in a better, stronger, healthier fashion. All right. So today's health facts is natural does not always mean safe. Okay. And so we're going to be talking a little bit about some of this herbal remedies, the supplements. And one of the reasons why this topic came about is because I'm noticing more and more that I'm getting questions around supplements and vitamins and things of this nature, and so just wanted to have a session where I kind of talk about, uh, these herbal remedies as compared and contrast with what we could easily describe as typical Western medicine, kind of the medicine that we're used to, because a lot of times people think that there's automatic conflict between the two, and that's both on the patient and the practitioner side. Like I said, a lot of times there's a lot of the way it's framed is like it's an either or that one is right and one is always wrong. And so, because of that, I decided to kind of do this show today that hopefully will kind of shed a little bit of light on these natural and herbal remedies and where they kind of fit in terms of health and why your clinician, your doctor might be a little concerned about it, and why and why folks that are promoting those sort of remedies, might have their own rationale or reasons for the way they frame things as well. Okay. So this topic is becoming more and more popular across social media, television, commercials, health food stores, sometimes even church conversation. And you'll probably hear things like, this tea lowers blood pressure naturally, what your doctor doesn't want you to know, or you get this root, it can heal your kidneys, or detox. I love the detox, the supplement that detoxes your body, or sometimes even, hey, don't take your medication, just take this natural product instead. And so the thing is, the question it becomes, because the real question becomes this, and that is, how do you know what's truly helpful and what could actually be dangerous? Okay. And so, yet again, we keep hitting on this fact, this statistic, and of course, a lot of my framework is going to come from the hypertension kidney world because that's what I do. Nearly half the adults in the U.S. have high blood pressure, and the African American community is actually more than half. We actually have the one of the highest rates of hypertension in the world, in the entire world. So we do have that, and there are lots of people that use supplements every day. And one of the things that becomes an issue is a lot of people don't actually tell their doctor what they're taking. So they'll get it, they order it online, and they'll just when because part of every physician visit is what we call reconciliation. We go over the medications that you're on, and so we'll ask about the amlodipines, the lisinopril, stuff of that nature. And a lot of people say yeah, 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 yeah. And sometimes, especially in clinic visits that are more or less rushed, and sometimes they're just rushed, you know the question doesn't get proposed, and what else? You go run through that typical list. and what else. And so a lot of times that part of it can get missing because it's not prompted by the clinician or the nurse that's just going over all the meds, and the patient that's there doesn't really think about mentioning that they're taking, like says cinnamon tea or a ginger root and stuff of that nature. And so a lot of times that just doesn't get it doesn't become part of that visit. And if it's something, like I said, if it's, I don't know, carrot juice or whatever, again, that may not be as important. But like I said, some of these herbs that get packaged and sold, it sometimes that stuff interacts with the medications that you're taking. So it actually is very important that that medication is communicated with your doctor. And so this type of stuff, it really can become a major issue. It can become a major problem, especially with people with high blood pressure, kidney disease, diabetes, heart disease, people that are taking blood thinners, all that stuff. If you have those sort of medical diagnoses and are actively being treated, sometimes, like I said, these herbal remedies can actually interact with those medications. Okay. So today we're going to hopefully go through this and kind of go over things that may help, things that may harm, how to spot misleading marketing, and how to protect yourself and your family. Okay, and here at Pressure MD Academy, we believe in prevention over reaction, education over confusion, and helping you to take control over your health. Okay, so the first question, of course, is what are herbal remedies and supplements? And herbal remedies are products made from plants, roots, leaves, seeds, flowers that people use for health purposes. So, if you're getting a tea and you're using that tea, not just to drink, but like I said, I'm using this tea to lower my blood pressure or to heal a wound or something of that nature. That tea now becomes an herbal remedy. So, like I said, dandelion roots and stuff of that nature, all that stuff becomes herbal remedies. And that can include stuff that could be vitamins, that could be minerals, herbs, gummies, the other type of gummies, the other type of gummies, drinks, capsules, oils, different types of oils. And some people use them to kind of lower blood pressure. Some people use them to lose weight, to boost their energy, to improve sleep, and increase some cellular performance, and then improve kidney health. So, like I said, those are different types of. It's not an exhaustive list, but it is some of the things that people use it for. So if you're using fiber supplements to help, and one of the things that to remember is that some of these supplements can have benefits. I mean, so if you're doing fiber supplements to help your cholesterol or to help, honestly, to help constipation, that's fiber. You can get a prescription for fiber, or you can get it over the counter. So if you get it over the counter, then hey, like I said, it's having health benefits. Omega-3 to support heart health. And certain plant-based eating. If you're eating it to improve your blood pressure, it's herbal, right? But the problem is this, and that is a lot of times people will market products with a lot of promises, and that is, it heals, your blood pressure, the itch on your left arm, the whole 9 yards. A lot of marketing, it's a lot of big promises. It's healing everything, and a lot, and sometimes this stuff does not have very good science. Now, part of that is the way to, quote unquote, big pharma, that FDA approval route is very science heavy. And then, of course, the products that are more natural, a lot of times, don't get studied as well, just because, and I hate to say it, but like I said, there is an economic advantage to those drugs that are promoted through big pharma. And if it's dandelion root, like I said, there's no one that owns that. Owns that. It's just natural, right? So it doesn't get studied as much. Now, but sometimes they do look through and just see whether or not the components of that may actually be reactive, may actually be beneficial or harmful. It's just that a lot of that science doesn't get the press and the attention that the more traditional medications will receive. And one thing about the supplements, and I tell this a lot of times to patients that bring this, it's like, they're not regulated the same way that the FDA approved medications are approved or regulated, which means that ingredients may vary. Labels themselves may be inaccurate. They could be things in there that may not be revealed. And then the other thing is that even if you get a good product, a reputable distributor, that the active ingredients within the herbal remedy can sometimes interact with the regular medication that you may take. And so for all those reasons, one of the reasons why this show is going on is to kind of help you to understand that that you can't see these herbal supplements as completely separate from the rest of your medication. You got to bring it all up under the umbrella. Okay. Now, when it comes to herbs and natural remedies, remember, I mean, a lot of stuff has been used for some of this stuff has been used with hundreds, thousands of years. I mean, traditional medicine systems, in a lot of different countries, whether it's Africa, Asia, Europe, all these, well, pretty much before medicine, I mean, that's what you had, right? You know, a group of people would identify a certain tea or broth or branch that would be beneficial. They pass this down. Of course, first it's going to be verbal, and then at some point in time, somebody starts writing this stuff down, and that's herbal remedy. That's what you had before you had all this pharma and regulated medications. So we can't say this doesn't work because a lot of times it's what people had, and as I said, it seems to be associated with some benefit there. However, and with modern science, sometimes we'll find out that, hey, maybe it was beneficial, but then maybe we find out now that that natural component interferes with the stuff that we've kind of created, or actually sometimes even the FDA medications are based off of a natural remedy, such as penicillin. And so just because someone labels something natural doesn't mean it's automatically safe, or it automatically can't cause harm. So remember, poison ivy is natural, tobacco is natural, and actually arsenic actually exists naturally. So the key to understanding this sometimes is understanding what works, what doesn't, and what may cause harm. So I think that, and from a physician standpoint, our job is, what primum non nocere, first do no harm. So we want to make sure that you're not taking anything that can't be that could potentially cause harm. Because if you that's the stuff we definitely want you not to take. The rest of it really is, if it's beneficial, great, and if it's not beneficial, no harm, no foul, right? So that's it. So yeah, so that's kind of kind of the things that go on there. Um so as we transition to the next topic, risk factors, causes, stuff of the nature. One of the big questions is, why do people turn to supplements? And this really needs to have an honest conversation about why do we use supplements? Why do people go to that? Okay. And sometimes people want a more natural approach. Um, Sometimes people, yeah, they want a more natural approach. Sometimes they're frustrated with medications because you got 10 medications. You don't want to take no more. And so you want to find something that's a little more what we call natural. Sometimes people just they don't trust the healthcare system. We just don't trust healthcare in whatever place that they're in. And so they would rather use something that, even if it's just something that their grandma used back in the day or granddad used back in the day, they trust that more than they trust the healthcare system, and what for whatever reasons, maybe they've had negative interactions with healthcare system. But that's another reason. Sometimes they can't afford the medication. Sometimes the herbal supplements are just cheaper than the medication that's being prescribed. And that also, we've talked about that before. Like I said, if you can't afford it, please bring that stuff up to your doc or pharmacist to see if there are other ways to afford those medications. Sometimes it's just marketing. I mean, hey, you saw something online, it's nice and dandy. They said, hey, take this supplement, and now you see people dancing and super happy. And so that's where we go. That goes into marketing. And sometimes you see that it looks great, and you want to, hey, I want to try that. That looks good. Or you can hear some testimonial from a friend, a celebrity. Like I said, word of mouth is word of mouth. It does work. It has always worked and always will. And honestly, sometimes people feel ignored in healthcare, and sometimes the way the natural medication is marketed, or the way that the people that are marketing it approach feels a little more trustworthy and friendly, and so therefore that gets trusted a little bit more than than traditional medicines that we're used to prescribing or giving people. And of course, for African Americans, I think we're always, we always wind up going back to us as a group, right? So especially in African American communities, there can be a mistrust because I mean, there is documented historical mistreatment of African Americans. So therefore, sometimes it's easier to trust those things that you've known or that your family or that your peoples have known for a long period of time. Um, so when someone says this natural remedy cured me, people listen. And marketing can be very powerful. Some of these companies know how to use fear, they know how to use hope, they need celebrity endorsements. Sometimes the testimonials are fake, and they can use them, and there's not really a penalty for that, right? Um, there's social media influencers and before and after pictures, and sometimes we have to remember that a great story is not always the same as scientific proof. And this is one thing that I like to tell people: like, science is boring. Science is slow. Science is boring. To sit there, to create a good study, and then you got to recruit the participants. First, you got to come up with a question. Then you got to set up a study in a proper format. You got to recruit participants, and then it takes a while to do the actual experiment to see whether or not the thing is working or it's not working, to see if it's causing harm or not causing harm. And then you got to sit down, you got to go through the data, then you have to sit down and you got to write this thing up. So, that's science. Okay, that's the science part. The other part is, hey, I took this and I took this herb and I felt good. And you take that and you can run with it. It's easy, it's a much easier thing to market. For that FDA approved drug, you can only say certain things. Like, you have to go through the scientific process and get authorization in order to say certain things. And then even when you say certain things, if you've ever seen a drug commercial, they'll mention all the good stuff, and then they gotta mention all this stuff that might go wrong, whether or not it was quote unquote true. Like I said, if you're studying a drug and someone says that their right ear itched when they took the medication, you got to write that down as an adverse reaction, and it has to be part of your marketing campaign. The same thing doesn't exist on the other side. So it's you're not really comparing apples to apples. I mean, this is comparing apples to walnuts is really what goes on here. So that's one thing that a lot of people, it's kind of hard to comprehend, because science is its own little entity, and especially as we've gone on, it's become more and more complex, and now science is even politicized. So you have all these elements going in there, and so a lot of times it's hard to tell what the truth is on that side. And then on the other side, like I said, because those rules aren't the same, but they present it as if it's the same, it can become very confusing for a lot of folks. Okay. So now, what are some red flags in supplement marketing? And these are things that, when I hear this, that red flag goes up. Like, yeah, I know this needs question marks. So whenever you hear miracle cures, detox is another big word that everybody loves, or reverse some disease overnight, like they reverse kidney disease overnight, especially they give you a time frame and it's short. Yeah, those are usually, that's usually a red flag. And then the other one is, your doctor doesn't want you to know, or the medical system doesn't want you to know. That's always a little icky there. Works instantly is another one that usually is kind of usually a red flag. No side effects, and the reason I say that is because just about, if you get enough people water, somebody's going to have a side effect from water. Okay, so there's no, so I have a difficulty wrapping my head around anyone that says that there's no side effects to whatever they have. There's usually, you can say there's low side effects or there's minimal side effects, or the side effects are not harmful. Like, say, it could be that. But when someone says no side effects, it's, a question mark should be going on. Okay. Um, and and like I said, anything that sounds too good to be true, A lot of times it usually is. Okay, so it usually is. Okay, so if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. Now that's not to say that they're not credible entities that are out there, but a lot of times they will give. If you listen to them, they will give you a little bit more nuanced answer. Okay. Now, next we're going to talk a little bit about why this matters for blood pressure and kidneys, and yet again, kidney disease, high blood pressure, a lot of times have no symptoms going on early. You can feel completely fine while damage is happening silently, and so sometimes people take these supplements, and not knowing that those supplements can worsen blood pressure. They can worsen kidney function. They can actually interfere with heart rhythms, liver function, and so there are some supplements out there that are not safe to take. So you got stuff like licorice root, uh, herbal blends that contain what we call NSAIDs, and NSAIDs are known to have potentially be harmful to kidneys. Anything that's got it may be a compound that has potassium in there, and in people with kidney disease, sometimes they can't handle potassium normally. If it's a weight loss supplement that has stimulants that can trigger a heart problem, sometimes they can also make the blood pressure a little higher. And then also the other thing, and this is especially uh, you know caution whenever your remedy or your supplement is getting imported, making sure it does not contain heavy metals. So sometimes their heavy metals tend to be harmful to people when they're ingested. They may not be revealed on your um, on the ingredients list, but sometimes these remedies will, if you're getting them from other places, might have heavy metals that in that country they don't have to advertise. Okay. And then even with say you got a good product is from a good reputed is sourced reputably, there's still interaction, just the nature of that herb and how it interacts in the body. And I mean, it's doing what it's supposed to do, but it may complicate other treatment that you're getting. So St. John's wort is one that can affect medications. Garlic supplements, sometimes those things can increase your low bleeding risk. Ginseng can affect blood sugar, blood pressure, and creatine can complicate kidney monitoring. And creatine is another one that's kind of big, and that is that it's a compound that is actually a precursor for creatinine. But for some people that take a lot of it, the creatinine number may increase a little bit. It does not actually cause kidney damage, but it can complicate kidney monitoring for some people. Most people it's fine, but it may warrant looking at the lab numbers a little bit differently. But it's not exactly harmful, but it may complicate that, right? And so that's why the screening matters. That's why it's important that you tell exactly what you're taking, so that stuff can be monitored, right? So because you want to make sure that stuff is monitored. And I usually tell folks to look at to tell two different groups of people. So one, tell your doc. So whatever you're taking, make sure that your doctor knows. And the other thing, I usually tell folks to let their pharmacist know as well, because sometimes the pharmacist can might be aware of what's going on there. Okay, so it's two groups of people. All right. So treatment. So are there any helpful supplements? And there are some. I mean, like we've kind of given a lot of the warnings. And like I said, also when we were talking that, some of these natural approaches seem to support health when used properly and under medical guidance, or at least medical um, your clinicians know what's going on there. And some of them that may help include, and like I said, dietary fiber is actually a treatment. That's a nutraceutical, really. Especially if you got constipation and you're using it to treat your constipation, it can kind of be helpful there. It can help with some of the cholesterol stuff as well. Omega-3 fatty acids, beetroot in moderation, hibiscus tea, garlic in food amounts, magnesium in selected patients. So these are depending upon what you have going on. So these are some that tend to be healthier, and there is you can find data to kind of support their use. So these are some things that have been studied a little bit better. So so I don't want to sound like I am kind of demonizing supplements across the board. I want to make sure that there's a nice balanced presentation on this. So the other thing is this, and that is supplements are meant to support healthy habits, not replace medical care. So one of the things, and really this really is for both, supplements as well as more traditional medicine. You know, in lifestyle medicine, we believe that the foundation of your health, of your wellness, is actually your healthy habits, not the medication. Okay. So and our supplements. So we want you to develop healthy habits to help either prevent certain, the chronic diseases, or to literally to help treat them, to manage them and to help treat them. So that healthy habits, and that's one of the reasons why, yeah, on this show, a lot of times, we almost always go back to the lifestyle changes. When I'm talking to patients in the clinic, I always go back to lifestyle changes, because a lot for just so many people, that is the cornerstone of a lot of their maladies. Now, don't get me wrong, if you got a cancer, I mean, like, yes, you might need the chemo or the radiation and things of nature. We're not trying to you know take that away, but even with the chemo and radiation, the healthy habits still support you, they still help you. So so we always want to make sure that becomes part of what you do in terms of maintaining your health. And so we still have, evidence of, that lower sodium intake, lower, and now, like I said, lower sugar, especially that refined sugar intake, seem to be associated with improved blood pressure and other outcomes. Weight loss seems to help everything. And so, hey, weight loss just seems to help everything, and it doesn't even have to be 30 pounds. 5-10 pounds a lot of times is associated with improvement in blood pressure, improvement in your blood glucose, for some people, improvement in their sleep. So it doesn't take a lot, to get some benefit. Physical activity, there's all kinds of data for that. Better sleep, stress reduction, limiting alcohol, stopping smoking. So yes, we're talking about the supplements, and we talked about some of the risks, some of the potential benefits. But at the end of the day, if you're looking at a vitamin, a nutraceutical to try to, get something better, I tried lifestyle changes. So the same way I tell folks that come to the clinic, or I'm talking to, and whether it's in the hospital or in some clinic somewhere, to kind of change some of those lifestyles. Think about that before you start trying to grab another pill, another powder, another tea, or anything of that nature. Lifestyle medicine is extraordinarily powerful for a lot of our conditions. So, so we got that. So the other things, like I said, other things you can do. There's a dash diet eating plan, especially for people that have high blood pressure. And what DASH stands for is the Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension, and that is a eating pattern that actually has, you know, it has scientific rigor. It has scientific studies. So they set up the scientific program and fed one group of people the DASH diet and other people the regular diets. And this eating plan was associated with a reduction in their blood pressure. And so that was more fruits and veggies, more beans and whole grains, less processed food, less sodium, less sugary drinks. So food itself became the medicine. So food itself became the medicine. So sometimes the best supplement is improving what's already on your plate. So you don't have to order, the detox. I mean, you can increase fiber. Guess what? It's going to clear the stuff out. You don't have to order this special tea, because guess what? If you're drinking, drink you some nice water, eat clean, and like I said, that in and of itself can become the healing that you need. So that's part of that. The other part, and the other part is this, and that is sleep and stress. Because sometimes people are looking for supplements because they're exhausted, they're stressed, they're anxious, not sleeping well. One of the questions we talked about the sleep, importance of sleep a few weeks ago. So w- maybe instead of reaching for some sleeping pill, some relaxation pill, ask the basic question: Are you sleeping enough? Are you getting enough sleep and getting enough rest? Are you drinking enough water? Are you moving your body? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Stress raises blood pressure. Poor sleep raises blood pressure. Sleep apnea raises blood pressure. Sometimes you just need some good, nice, good sleep, like I said, clean eating, walk a little bit, get you some good solid rest, put the phone to the side, straighten up the bed aside, maybe you can drink a little tea before, non-caffeinated herbal tea, and and go lay down. Go lay down, get you a good nice rest, and then think about things in the next morning. Okay, so that's sometimes what you need. Sometimes your body just needs some restoration instead of a pill. Um, so that's pretty much it. So as we kind of go through here, you know, of course, everything I'm trying to connect the kidneys and blood pressure. So the kidneys, of course, do a lot of regulation of blood pressure, salt, fluid balance, and so when blood pressure stays high, it can affect the blood pressures in the kidneys. And once the kidneys become dangerous, they make blood pressure worse. And so, but some of this is kind of going back to those lifestyle medicine things. Sometimes a lot of this stuff can be mitigated by addressing what's going on in your life, getting that stuff sorted out, and kind of stopping the cycle of damage that can happen there. Okay. So, so as we kind of wrap up here, yeah, I'm kind of running behind on time here. So as we wrap up here, so let's think about things you can take away from this. 5 things you can start today. So the 5 things you can start today. So number one, bring all supplements to your doctor visit. So at some point in time, maybe at least once a year, if not more often, depending on how many meds you have, you know, you want to go in, you want to take all your medication bottle, put them in a bag, including all your supplements, the tea, like the label of teas and stuff of nature. Bring all that stuff in, okay, and let your doc know and put them on your medication list. So that they can know what you're taking. And like I said, they're going to let you know that they can't make any sort of verification about whether that tea is safe, whether or not that vitamin is safe. We can't do that. We it's just not what we our scope of what we do, unless you have a herbalist. So, but it still needs to be known. Okay, so bring all supplements to your doctor visit. Uh, don't stay, do not stop your prescription medication suddenly without talking to your doctor. If you're, decided to take an herbal supplement and not take a prescribed medication, let whoever wrote for that medication know that you're doing that. That stuff needs to be known. They can let you know if there's going to be any harms or anything of that nature. Okay, so let them know. Be very careful with online claims, especially social media influencers. Remember, everybody loves to say, "Oh, big pharma just wants it for the money." Well, guess what? So does that social media influencer. So there's at the end of the day, they both have the same thing. Both have the same monetary goal, and that is to they're not giving you away that tea. The tea is not free. Okay, this herb is not free. So if they're having you buy it, then like I said, there's a financial incentive going on. They're the same way there is with big pharma. And then focus on lifestyle first. Eat healthy eating, sleep, exercise, stress reduction. Focus on that first, and try to give that a shot. Like I said, but now don't get wrong. Don't stop your medications just because you're doing that. What should happen is that as you're doing that, you should need less of your medication if it's going to work for you. Then the other thing is know your numbers, know your blood pressure, kidney function, blood sugar, weight. Know the numbers that are important. If you got questions about them, be sure to ask. And sometimes, sometimes doctors don't have a lot of time, so you may have to, get 2 of your questions answered this time, and then schedule you another appointment to get the other 2 questions answered. So don't be afraid to do those sort of things as well. And remember that knowledge is power. Okay. So this is Dr. Brown. Of course, I'm a doctor, but not your doctor. So if you have specific questions regarding to your specific health, always go to your doctor for this. This show is for education, entertainment purposes only, and it's not medical advice. But you can feel free to reach out to us. And if you feel like you learned something, you learned something, you feel like this is a good information, be sure to like, share, and follow. We really appreciate that. Feel free to let us know if you think this is good. Outside of that, everyone have a great day. And thank you for watching, whether you're on WVOE, watching the live stream, or watching the recording. We really appreciate it. Thank you, and we'll see you again next week.